Do you have a plan for your life? Or maybe you are just living day by day, or even maybe minute by minute, without really understanding, here's where I want to go and here's what I'm going to do. And again, there are tremendous distractions that want to pull you away from focus, but then also that's where you get a lack of clarity. So you just don't know what you're doing, you don't know where you're going to go. And it just kind of gets you drifting in every area of your life, whether that's like less time with God, less time with your spouse, less time with your kids or your business or your job, whatever the case is. And I want to share with you about kind of a concept that I heard of not long ago, a couple years ago, and that I've like wrote down, and it has given me extreme clarity and helped me. And so I want to just kind of turn around and help you do the same. If you don't know me, I'm James. I'm Pastor James Wilson. I am all about just helping you develop and reconnect with your purpose, faith, and in your relationships. And so this episode of Make a Slant podcast is really about you creating a life plan and stop drifting in life. You will never stumble your way into a healthy relationship with your spouse. You will never stumble your way into getting closer to God. You will never stumble your way into achieving really what is on your heart and what are the desires of your heart. So the reason why I wanted to share this is just yesterday, I spoke to a group of senior adults, probably about 50 or 60 senior adults, and I'm 35. And so, I really didn't want to go like, hey, here's some things you should do, right? But at the same time, there were some things that I wanted to share. And so I shared kind of like, hey, here are 3 words that describe me. And here are some ways in which how I live my life so that those words can be shared about me, right? Because at the end of the day, like, you will pass on, and it's about what do people say about you? What is the life that you lived, and what do people say about you? And that really reminded me of an exercise I did back in 2020, which I wanted to pull this up here. But what I did, even at I'm 35 now, so 2020, a couple years ago, I was still in my 30s, but I think 31. And what I did is I wrote my eulogy. Who writes a eulogy at 31 years old? Well, me, I do, right? Well, and there's a reason why I wrote my eulogy at 31 years old, is because I was still in college, and I was just kind of figuring out, hey, where am I going? What legacy am I leaving? What am I passing on to my loved ones? What is this thing called life? And God, what do you want me to do? Who do you want me to be? And it's deeper than the vanity metrics on social media. It's deeper than your follower count. It's deeper than the amount of money you have in a business. It's deeper than those things, because when you attend a funeral, your cars don't come and visit you. When you attend a funeral, your nice house doesn't travel to visit you, right? They're just things. There's nothing wrong with them, but they are just things. And so we want to love people and use things, not love things and use people. So with that said, I just wanted to share kind of a portion of my life plan. And there's a reason why. Because again, if you just drift through life without any sort of direction, then you will end up with a lot of regrets that really didn't need to happen. It just didn't need to happen. But again, it doesn't happen by accident. And you are a slant leader. This is Make a Slant podcast. So why is this important? It's important because you want to get at least 1% better in every area of your life. You want to give God your best every single day. When you mess up, because you will, you're going to acknowledge that and get back on and move forward. You are a slant leader. So this is why this is important. You don't want to get to the end of your life. Now listen, as a pastor, I do hospital visitations. Okay. And I've done hospital visitations, and it's a hard thing when you see somebody and they start opening up about the regrets that they've had in life. And I have never heard, in which I'm sure you've probably heard from other pastors, but I've never heard someone say, man, I wish I would have made more money, or man, I wish I would have worked those extra hours. man, I wish I would have had 5 more houses. It was usually about the relationships with God and relationships with family and relationships with friends, like at the end. And so what you have an opportunity right now to do is to get some clarity on what do you want those to look like so that you can live out every day, that you can take actions on that so that you can be able to have people say kind of the words that you are really aspiring for them to say. So the eulogy, again, I'm just going to share from mine, and I will share probably an exercise or two for you to do. So the eulogy for me, again, I wrote this at 31, still have it, is at the top. It says, James loved God with all his mind, soul, and strength. He was a man of God who loved his wife and children with every ounce of his existence. Like 2 sentences. In 2 sentences, that's what I am living and striving for. Love God with all my mind, soul, and strength. And I was a man of God who loved his wife and children with every ounce of his existence. Like, that's it. That's it. And then it just breaks down into God, my spouse, my children, my parents, my colleagues, and my friends. So on the so before I go into God, I just want to ask, like, if you could, which I know it's going to be like really hard, but when you talk about your eulogy, and again, this isn't about being morbid and sad and like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die and all this other stuff. But what it's really about is like, when you can get this, you can get the most clarity in your life to say yes to so many things, but to also say no to so many things. To say no to the things that won't get you that result. Right? So for me, I have extreme clarity in what I'm going to say no to that'll get me off the path. So anything that'll take me away from loving God with all my heart, soul, and strength and mind, like, I'm not doing it. Anything that'll take me away from being a man of God, I'm not going to do it. Anything that'll take me away from loving my wife and kids with every ounce of my existence, I'm not going to do it. But that's because I have extreme clarity on what I am going to do. And so with you, could you write down in even 2 sentences, maybe 3, or I'll give you 5, all right? 2 is hard. But could you just write down in a couple sentences what you would like your loved ones to say at your funeral? It's not easy. It's not easy. But again, it's not, and it's not morbid. It's a clear way to live your life. Like, if you want people to say that you were loving, then guess what you need to do? Guess who you need to be? You need to be loving. If you want people to say that you were caring and that you were generous and that you were there for them, then go be that person. Just be it. Like, and then they will say it. Right? Like, you all know somebody that's typically maybe like that's not loving, that's maybe very they just irritate you, they get on your nerves, they drain you, like, you know that person. But then you think about, like, at their funeral, you know, you don't want to say that, right? But you're like, man, it's really hard to come up with something nice. Like, you don't want to be that person. Don't be the person where it's really hard for people to think of nice things to say. So in the categories, after the 2 sentences, I have this. So with God, so these categories are what they would say about me. So for God, I said that James was a man after my heart. James was a man after my own heart. That's what I'd love for God to say. For my spouse, this is what I'd like for her to say. A husband like no other. He was patient, loving, fun, and always put me in front of himself. For my children, my father was the greatest dad ever. He was silly, loud, crazy, and loved us. He was a blessing to be around and showed us the true meaning of a godly father. This is what I'd like for my mom to say. I raised a son who loved God and his family. Here's what I put for my colleagues. James was a hard worker and a lover of Christ. He pushed me and made me a stronger person. Then lastly, I have my friends. I would like for them to say this. James was a great friend. He was helpful, loving, supportive, funny, and always told me the truth, even when it hurt. Now, if you don't understand the importance of this exercise, like if you don't understand the importance of kind of writing some of these things down, then you are giving your life up for grabs for culture and for the enemy and for distractions, for procrastination, for worry, anxiety, doubt, fear, suffering. For all of these things is because you are not clear on how you should be living. And for me, I am very clear of I should be living for the Lord. And because me living for the Lord, every other area of my life needs to submit to him. It's very clear. So if you do not have that type of clarity, then this exercise will help you. And then after that, I have my priorities. And so I have my priorities kind of listed out. You can agree with them or disagree, but they're my priorities, so it doesn't really matter. But nevertheless, what matters most, number one, God. Number two, my wife. Number three, my kids. Number four, myself. Number five, ministry. Number six, self-education. Number seven, finances. Number eight, friends. That is on my list. You don't have to have the same priorities. And for me with finances, it's also, not just income, but also generosity. We love being generous. If there's like a new couple getting married, anytime I meet somebody as a new couple getting married, I'm like, hey, what's your registry? Because I remember like when we first got married, it was such a blessing for people to give to us. Or hey, if I know anybody that's pregnant, like if I meet a lady that's pregnant or a husband and they're expecting, I go, hey, what's your registry? Because we want to bless people. But nevertheless, those are my priorities. And again, what are your priorities? And are you living in a way to where they're just not, typed on a document, but it's actually like, hey, these actions are lining up with my values. My actions are lining up with what I'm actually saying that they are. So that's the whole point of the priorities. And then after that is, an action plan in regards to how I live for God. And then there is an impactful verse for me, an inspiring Bible verse, which mine is Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man. I love that verse. It helps me stay focused. It helps me remember, because people will let you down. It's that simple. People will let you down. Your spouse is going to let you down. Your kids are going to let you down. You're going to let yourself down. But you don't work for the people. You work for the Lord, because God will never let you down. And so that is, again, just a powerful verse for me. And you need to get your own. But nevertheless, there are a couple other things on here that I wanted to share. And, and the next one I'll go to is spouse, kind of the action plan around that, because when you are a leader and you're very busy, or you are an entrepreneur, business owner, whatever the case is, you have a lot of responsibilities, but then you're also married, right? So you have your spouse and your kids, you have these relationships, and there are times where there are seasons and rhythms of seasons to where you lean more into one than the other. So you can lean more into your business or your job, your career, more than your actual home life. Like that happens, but it needs to be in a rhythm and not like a one, hey, I'm gonna just do this for the rest of my life. But the reason why I brought this up and why I had, the statement of, here, let me pull up real quick. Why I have this statement from my wife to say this, again, I want my wife to say, James was a husband like no other. He was patient, loving, fun, and always put me in front of himself. But remember, that doesn't happen on accident. It doesn't happen on accident. So this is what I have as the purpose statement for my wife for this. It says, I will love my wife daily in a way that honors God and lays the foundation for my children. I will love my wife daily in a way that honors God and lays a foundation for my children. Wow. And then I have just some specific commitments on here. So I love how I kind of, and again, this isn't mine. Like I found this, but I'll kind of edit it out and work through a couple different versions. That way I could be able to send it to you or have it available for you. because this changed my life and really on how I live and the decisions that I make. But with that statement, I made some commitments to Allison, like for me, like these are on here for me to live by. And I've said, hey, I commit to being mature. I commit to apologizing in every argument. I commit to doing weekly acts of service, which is one of her love languages. I commit to an annual vacation with Allison without the kids. And I commit to remaining loyal to my wife. So those are my commitments. So again, what's the purpose of this episode? The purpose of this episode is for you to understand you will never be able to achieve what the desires of your heart are without clarity. You will never be able to be who God's called you to be without clarity. And the only way you can get clarity is to be able to just slow down, because there is noise all around you. You're going to get ads, your social media, commercials, music, TV shows, movies, everything. There's so many things pulling at your time, which is fine. But you got to be able to slow down long enough to pause and say, what am I doing with this life? Like, what am I doing with my life? Who has God called me to be in this life? What are my priorities? Am I living in a way that my priorities are lined up? But then also, what do I want my loved ones to say about me? Am I living in a way to where they will say those things? And that's the point of life. Are you living in a way that people know that you are a follower of the Lord, and that are you living in a way that people know that you put your family as a high priority in your life, or not? Like it is or it's not. Like there's no in between, right? And nobody is responsible for that except for you. Like, you are the one responsible for how you live your life. And so what I want to do, I can't do it for you, but I'm just here as a guide. Like, hey, I found this amazing resource that was a blessing to me. I hope this is helpful to you, right? Like that's me. But at the end of the day, like, you have to do those things. So if you would like a copy of this kind of life plan, again, to where you kind of just sit through and document, and there are some other examples. So like, you're not gonna get mine, right? This is mine. But however, I'll have an example or two in there. Then that way you can kind of get a feel for what that looks like, which also goes to be able to help you do that. All right. But before I share how you can do that, I did want to share with you that this podcast is sponsored by Reconnect Mastermind. So if you are a high achieving business owner and you want to reconnect with your faith, purpose, or relationships, then I have a mastermind for you. We are launching in 2025. We're going to have a small group, an exclusive group of like-minded people to come together and to be able to reconnect with your faith, purpose, and relationships at the same time. And I'm extremely excited. So if that's you and you are curious to see if you are a good fit to work with me and to be a part of this amazing mastermind, then just go to, what is it? It is, I don't even remember. Yeah, actually just email me. That's better. Yeah, don't go to any website. Just email me at james@jamesmwilson.com. Go to james@jamesmwilson.com, and then we'll be able to book a call, and then I'll be able to see if you're a good fit for the Reconnect Mastermind. So, but on the other end is, if you would like this version of the life plan, if you would like that, then just go to jamesmwilson.com, and I will be able to have a free download for you. Just put in your email, and then you'll be able to get the life plan. Just go to jamesmwilson.com, and you'll be able to get that life plan for you, so that you can get some clarity on how to live your life. What are you doing? Where are you going? All those answers will be able to help you not just live more clear, but be who God's called you to be. So with that said, remember, you are one slant away from changing your life.